Hi and welcome to this video in the MRDCL Fundamentals series, and in this video we're going to be looking at applying 1 level and 2 level ranking to the rows of your tables. So I'm going to start by looking at some output first of all, and then looking at how we can apply ranking to that to make that a little bit easier to work with. So if we look at the tables that this particular run has produced, you can see here on the first table we've got brand A that has 3 pack sizes, large, medium and small, brand B which has 2, and brand C which has 3. Now, whilst that table's quite easy to read and quite well ordered, it's possible that you might want that table ranked so that the highest percentage goes to the top of the table and the lowest goes to the bottom. So if we scroll down here, we can see that brand C in the small size is the highest with 60%. And if I scroll down and look at the smallest, I think that's the 5 there for the brand A medium size. So the table we actually want would actually show the highest at the top and the smallest at the bottom. And table 2 is very similar, except here you can see I've plugged in some subtotals. So not only have we got brand A with its 3 sizes, we've got any one in the subtotal here that mentions any of those sizes, likewise for B, and likewise for C here, anyone who mentions any of the different pack sizes for C. And the challenge for this particular table is to do what's called 2-level ranking, so that the brand with the high subtotal goes to the top of the table, but within it all of the sizes are ranked as well. So if we look down this table, I think brand C has the highest subtotal with 95%. So we want that to go to the top of the table, and looking at the percentages, it looks like the small size would rank highest within brand C. So we're going to look at how we put in code to achieve that. So I'm going to open up the script and look at that, and you can see it's fairly standard code. This is the script that produced the tables we just saw. All the pack sizes there, no ranking being applied, and there's the same for the second table, brands 2, where we've got the subtotals in there but no ranking. So let's see what we've got to do to get ranking in there. So I've got a second script here called run2, and I'm going to open that up, and we've now got some controls in here, label controls in here. So for the first example, where I just wanted to rank the brands in descending order, I've got less than G1B greater than, which stands for, just to understand what the abbreviation, if you like, of that label control, it's group 1 begin is how I always think about it. So that means I want to start ranking here at this particular response. That piece of text there that says less than G1B greater than can be anywhere in that label before the semicolon. I've chosen to put it at the beginning. But I want to end ranking here with G1E, so group 1 end. That was before the semicolon, but as long as it's anywhere in that line, it will work fine. So all these rows that I'm highlighting here would get ranked, but none of these that's below those rows wouldn't get ranked. Now, when I run this, let's quit and just run this, you can see now that the table I get is the same table as before. Now it's in a rank order. So brand C, which you may remember was the small size, goes to the top, medium size goes next, and finally we've got brand A medium size at the bottom with only 5 responses, and none of these is anchored, if you like, at the bottom of the table because it was outside the G1B and G1E ranking group. Now let's look at the slightly more challenging example. The second one, we wanted to rank the subtotals, and then we wanted to rank the brands within it. Now this looks more complicated at first, but let's explain what's going on here. So essentially the first level of ranking are the subtotals. So if we put, just like before, we put G1B, less than greater than G1B, for the first subtotal, and that subtotal is ranked down to this subtotal here, so the subtotal for brand C. So that's where the ranking for the first level is controlled from. We want to know whether brand A, brand B, or brand C is the largest subtotal, because that goes highest in the table. Then we worry about the sub-brands or the brands within it, the sizes within it. On here, you'll see there's actually extra script. So now we've got G1P following all of the brand A subtotals. So all the brand A pack sizes have G1P on them. Now what G1P means, follow the group 1 previously. So it's going to follow the group previously. If I had G1N, all these rows here would follow the brand B. Now we don't want that to happen. If you had your subtotals after the pack sizes, you would have G1N, but here we have the subtotal first. So G1P tells MRDCL that we want these particular 3 rows that follow, this row and the next 2, to follow where brand A ends up in the table when it's ranked. And then within it, we've got G2B, and not far below, 2 rows before, G2E, as you can see, which means that that's my second level of ranking. So that's where I begin group 2 ranking within the subtotals. So that's going to rank these sizes within brand A. And then I do the same thing again here when I get to brand B. These 2 rows here are going to follow the brand B subtotal with G2B and G2E. You can have multiple G2Bs and G2Es as long as you open and close them in a logical order. That's absolutely fine. And same down here for brand C, where there's 5 pack sizes, G2B and G2E. And once again, none of these sits outside of all of that, so that it's left anchored at the bottom of the table. So let's run that now and have a look and see what we get. And if we go to the second table now, you can see that brand C subtotal is at the top of the table, and then the pack sizes are in sequential order, with small size first, then the 11 people for medium, and so on down to just the 7 people for large size. And then we get brand C, brand B, which is 13 people, and the ranking within that as well. And finally, brand A comes out at the bottom of the table with none of these anchored at the very bottom. So that's all worked fine there, the 2-level ranking. Now there's a couple more tricks that we can apply if we look at this particular run. Now, table 3 and 4 are exactly the same table as we just seen on table 2, but table 3's got an extra format option, RNC2. What that means is rank the table on the second column of the table. Now, what MRDCL does is it treats the total column as 0, as it does in other places. So the second column will be the second age category, effectively, with the banner here, or the cross break here is age. So it's going to rank the table not on default, which is the total column. That's what it does by default. It's going to choose the second age category to do ranking on. And finally, the 4th table just shows you how you can override all these things by specifying N rank, and so that no ranking takes place. Let's go back to looking at our tables and locate table 3. And you can see now that the ranking is based on the answers in this column here, the second age category, or what's called column 2 of the table, rather than column 0. So brand C still stays at the top, but you can see now that rather than brand C small size being the first of the pack sizes, what we get now is the very small size coming out to the top, because there's 6 in this column rather than 5. And that probably follows down. Brand A now becomes the second subtotal, because on this column it's higher than brand B, which is only 5 people. So the ranking is completely different with RNC2 in there. And finally, we've got N rank, which just doesn't rank anything. It just goes back to the default order of the variable. So that's covered 1-level and 2-level ranking. You can also have a 3rd-level ranking. There's not an example here, but it follows exactly the same principles, where you might use G2B to make a 3rd level of ranking, follow some code, a code that applies at the second level ranking, and so on. It's fairly rare that you need that. It might also be worth saying that there is a video on using EPS that can automate this all for you, so that there is a template with some code underneath it that will automate this particular technique of doing 1, 2 and 3 level ranking. But this video has focused on using the code to generate the tables that we require and the types of ranking that are needed. Well, I hope that's been useful to you. Thanks for joining me.